Hey guys, I'm going to give you a quick rhythm lesson today. I'm going to show you 12 different voicings for major triads. I think these are very important to learn because not only do they get you playing a simple triad chord in 12 different places on the neck, but they also help your scales in recognizing basically how your chords are linking to your scales, so it makes soloing and improvising a little easier as well. But this is mainly going to be for you rhythm players out there. And people having to hold down the rhythm section of a band. So I'm going to use a D chord to start out with because it seems to be a chord that most guitarists, even beginners, seem to know. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to play D chords all over the neck, starting at the lowest possible point up to the highest possible, or I'll cut off at the 12th fret where they start to repeat. But basically we have 4 string sets when dealing with triads, and what that means is that a triad consists of 3 notes, so obviously you need 3 strings to play it. So if I'm using adjacent strings at all times, I'm going to get 1 string set using the high E, B, and G strings, 1 string set using the B, G, and D strings, 1 string set using the G, D, and A strings, and the low string set using the D, A, and low E string. And basically there are obviously 3 chords per string set that you can form to make a triad for the 3 notes that consist of the chord. In this case we're doing D, so there'll be D, F sharp, and A, all in different positions. In inversions, I should say. So let's just start with the highest string set. So we're only going to be playing the top 3 strings here. And the lowest place we can play a D chord would be the one everyone knows. These 3 notes, A, D, and F sharp. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move each of those notes up to its next respective scale degree in the key of D. So the A, being the 5th, is going to move up to the 1, which is D. The D here, which is the root, is going to move up to the 3rd, or F sharp. So we have those 2 notes. And then the highest note in the chord, the F sharp, or the 3rd, is going to move up to the 5th, which is A. So we have this chord. So we have this one moving to this one. So this is a D in second inversion because the 5th is on the bottom. Then this is a D in actually root position with the D on the bottom. And then using the same method, we're going to put this chord up another inversion. So if this is a D in the bass, we're going to move that up to the 3rd, which is the F sharp. Then we have the F sharp, which is the 3rd. We're going to move that up to the 5th, which is A. And then we have on top the 5th, being A, is going to move up to the root, D. So this is our 3rd shape. So far we have D, D, and D again in each of its inversions on the top string set. Now we're going to use the same idea and do it on the other 3 string sets. I'm going to go over these a little faster. So pause your video and, freeze frame it if you need to catch some of these voicings. But the lowest one we got here, we got an F sharp in the bass, so we're in 1st inversion. F sharp, A, D. Again, now we're only using the D, G, and B strings. Then the next one is a form that you're probably familiar with. It's coming out of this A shape, the A open position form, but up at D. And then the last one is going to be up here at the 10th fret. So we have D, F sharp, and A. That one's in root position. Now moving to the next string set, we have a D here in the root with my pinky, the 3rd, F sharp, and then an A. So this is root position on the 2nd lowest string set we're on now. My next position, and my final position. This one kind of looks like an open position E chord. And then finally the lowest string set. The lowest one down here is actually kind of muddy in the case of D because we got 2 open strings, but we got the F sharp in the bass, and then the A being the 5th, and then the D open string. And then our next chord is going to be right up here. This one is in 2nd inversion with the 5th on the bottom, and then root position up here. D, F sharp, and A on the lowest 3 strings. So what you can begin to notice now that you know the 12 voicings that I just showed you is you can begin to combine them and create fuller sounding chords, some of which you probably already know. So for instance, this D triad up here on the highest strings, if I add the open D string, that creates it a little fuller. If I want to create this voicing, which is seen a lot, that's combining a couple string sets. I can even add the A on bottom if I want. I could take this open D position, add the F sharp in the bass, for instance. Or this A form, that's just these three notes, can become the typical classic rock kind of power chord looking one. Or this one up here can become kind of the Hendrix bar chord that you've seen, similar to this one, and so on. So you take each of these voicings, and depending on how full of a sound you want, or how much rhythm you have to hold down, or maybe there's a bass player already playing the low notes and you want to just stay in the higher register, this is a great place to start. Obviously these are all transferable to other keys. For instance, this D chord, say I wanted to make this A, I would move it up here. And the way I know that, or the way I think of it at least, is the top string is the third of your chord. So in this case, C sharp in the key of A. Or back here, D. F sharp is the third of D. So that's how I find it. You just begin to connect them. And after you take a form, say like this, that you create, then why don't you say, okay, what scale does this come from? And this one's actually really easy to see. Just to give you an example, the arpeggio for this D chord is laid out for you right here. Or you can think of it as we're in the Phrygian position of D. So if you apply a scale to each of these chords and figure out which scale kind of surrounds each chord, you're really going to open up your playing and your knowledge of the fretboard and your versatility in a band, because not only could you now play rhythm in any kind of register, you can also play leads pretty effectively by seeing them linked to each chord. So thanks for watching the video. Take what you can from this. Email me any questions you may have, and happy playing.